What's the deal with window shades on flights? Hi, I'm Morgan, and this is a travel tip. You may have been asked at some point to either open your window shade or close your window shade by a flight attendant. So what are some of the reasons for that? If you've ever flown on a really long flight and you've noticed that everyone has their window shades closed and the cabin lights are off, it's for sleeping. And one person opening their window shade can light up the entire cabin and wake up all of the passengers. In that situation, are you required to keep it closed? No, but your flight attendant may ask you as a courtesy to close it so that the rest of the cabin is not lit up. Also, if you flew post 9/11 or you have flown over certain defense facilities or bases, you may have recalled that you were asked to close your window shades during certain parts of the flight. In particular, and I cannot find an article that elaborates on this, but I do remember it specifically happening, post 9/11, flying into and out of the DCA airport, there was a certain point in landing and takeoff where the window shades had to be closed. But there are times where your flight attendant may ask you to open your window shades, and that is typically during takeoff or landing. Although this is not something that is mandated by a federal aviation regulation, it is something that the FAA leaves up to individual airlines, and the individual airlines then pass on their guidance to their crew members. So why might you need to have your window shade open during takeoff and landing on certain airlines? This is a safety thing. If you remember one of my previous videos, I talked about the sterile cockpit rule, and that is taxi, takeoff, landing, and any point of the flight where the plane is under 10,000 feet. This rule is a result of ensuring that all crew members are able to give their full undivided attention to the critical phases of flight. And during those critical phases of flight, your crew members, flight attendants in particular, should have a clear, unobstructed view of the outside of the plane. And the reason for that is safety. If there is an engine fire or there is something obstructing an emergency exit, the flight attendant needs to be able to clearly see very quickly what the best way to evacuate passengers is. In the event of an emergency or an evacuation, there could also be other things obstructing the outside of the plane. And this needs to be known before opening an emergency exit because it could provide a more dangerous situation for passengers already in an emergency situation. So although it is not something that is federally regulated and mandated, it is something that is airline specific. And if your flight attendant asks you to open your window shade during takeoff or landing, you still have to comply with that. This is my dog. Her name is Fern. Although it may seem annoying and like a nuance, it is something that you should follow if asked to open it. And it is only typically for those critical phases of flight that you will have to have it open. And as soon as you reach 10,000 feet, you can close it back and get some rest. This topic was not one that was easy to find a lot of articles on, so I'm not citing any articles. But if anyone has any resources or other instances where you may be asked to open or close your window shade, I would love to hear them in the comments, and maybe I can provide a follow-up video. Follow my page if you would like to stay up to date on aviation safety alerts and travel tips.